The rain washes away footprints, but it can never wash away a nightmare. It has been exactly 140 days of agonizing, deafening silence since the sanctity of a quiet suburban home was violently breached and Nancy Guthrie was swallowed by the darkness. Nancy Guthrie did not just wander off. Nancy Guthrie was taken, leaving behind an empty house and a mystery that has completely paralyzed her daughter, Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie. This is a meticulously orchestrated, high-stakes phantom operation that has shattered the life of Savannah Guthrie. While local authorities stumble in the dark, former FBI Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer has been relentlessly hunting the shadows, absolutely refusing to let the name Nancy Guthrie become a forgotten statistic. The predators who orchestrated this nightmare against Nancy Guthrie are still hiding behind encrypted walls, holding the mother of Savannah Guthrie hostage in a twisted game of extortion. They thought they could strike at the heart of Savannah Guthrie without consequence. But Jennifer Coffindaffer is determined to prove them wrong. The clock is ticking, the desert winds are howling, and the terrifying truth behind the abduction of Nancy Guthrie is finally bleeding out into the light. For 140 excruciating days, investigators, the public, and the devastated family of Nancy Guthrie have been haunted by a single, terrifying piece of digital evidence. In modern criminal investigations, detectives rely on digital footprints to find victims, but the perpetrators who targeted Nancy Guthrie left absolutely nothing to chance. The only surviving clue regarding the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie is a chilling 4-second glitch captured by her front door's Ring camera at 2:14 in the morning. When former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer first analyzed this footage of the attack on Nancy Guthrie, her blood ran cold. Jennifer Coffindaffer noted that the video does not show a panicked burglar. It reveals a hulking, masked figure moving toward the door of Nancy Guthrie with the terrifying, unhurried precision of an apex predator looking to extract high-value leverage against Savannah Guthrie. This phantom knew exactly where the blind spots were around the home of Nancy Guthrie. The footage shows him stepping onto the porch of Nancy Guthrie just seconds before a sophisticated signal jammer severs the camera's Wi-Fi connection. Staring at these 4 seconds of footage day after day for 140 days takes an unimaginable psychological toll on Savannah Guthrie. Every time the video loops, it is a devastating reminder to Savannah Guthrie of the exact moment Nancy Guthrie was actively hunted and plucked from the safety of her own home. Jennifer Coffindaffer has pointed out that the operational security demonstrated in this clip proves Nancy Guthrie was the victim of a highly coordinated extraction. The intruder wore a specialized raincoat to ensure facial recognition software would have 0 data points to map, effectively turning him into a ghost before he even touched the door of Nancy Guthrie. For 140 days, law enforcement has stared at this ghost, paralyzed by the lack of clues regarding Nancy Guthrie. But for seasoned experts like Jennifer Coffindaffer, the absence of evidence proves that Nancy Guthrie was targeted by a deeply sophisticated criminal enterprise that spent months surveilling the routines of Nancy Guthrie, testing the neighborhood's response times, and mapping the perfect digital blackout just to get to Savannah Guthrie. The shadow on the porch is the manifestation of a master plan executed flawlessly against Nancy Guthrie, leaving Savannah Guthrie pleading for answers while Jennifer Coffindaffer tries to keep the investigation alive. When the digital trail for Nancy Guthrie ran cold in the United States, the investigation was violently dragged across the international border into the unforgiving, sun-scorched expanse of the Sonoran Desert in Mexico. A dark web whisper and an anonymous tip pointed a search organization toward a desolate stretch of land, claiming that Nancy Guthrie had been disposed of in the wasteland. It was a lead that filled the heart of Savannah Guthrie with an icy dread, yet it demanded immediate action to find Nancy Guthrie. The brave volunteers, operating where U.S. government badges hold no jurisdiction, armed themselves with shovels and cadaver dogs to search the blistering Mexican heat for Nancy Guthrie. Jennifer Coffindaffer monitored this search closely, knowing that the cartels operating in this region could easily hide a high-profile target like Nancy Guthrie to maintain leverage over Savannah Guthrie. What the teams uncovered in that dirt was a scene straight out of a horror film. As the excavators tore into the earth searching for Nancy Guthrie, they stumbled upon a sprawling, clandestine graveyard containing 25 separate, unmarked graves. The sheer scale of the grim discovery halted the search operation for Nancy Guthrie in its tracks. Forensic anthropologists had to painstakingly unearth each set of remains. For hours, the world held its breath alongside Savannah Guthrie, wondering if one of these 25 graves held the remains of Nancy Guthrie. However, as the forensic data came back, a crushing reality set in for Savannah Guthrie and Jennifer Coffindaffer. The bodies belonged to cartel victims, and none of the DNA matched Nancy Guthrie. Former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer viewed this grim detour not as a failure to find Nancy Guthrie, but as a chilling psychological tactic utilized by the kidnappers. Jennifer Coffindaffer theorized the anonymous tip was a deliberate red herring, designed to force Savannah Guthrie to endure the agonizing emotional trauma of confronting the potential mortality of Nancy Guthrie. Yet, despite the horrors unearthed in the desert, the search groups refused to be deterred from finding Nancy Guthrie. Brushing the cartel dust from their boots, they are mapping out new coordinates for this week, promising Savannah Guthrie and Jennifer Coffindaffer that they will not stop digging until Nancy Guthrie is brought home. To truly understand the terrifying abduction of Nancy Guthrie, one must look past the 84-year-old victim and focus on the ultimate prize, the massive wealth of Savannah Guthrie. The perpetrators who breached that home had zero interest in the modest bank accounts of Nancy Guthrie. Nancy Guthrie was never the true target. The mastermind set their sights on a much larger prize, her daughter, Savannah Guthrie, whose net worth is publicly estimated at a staggering $45 million. Jennifer Coffindaffer has repeatedly stressed that modern criminal syndicates operate like dark businesses, and they calculated that kidnapping Nancy Guthrie was the easiest way to extract millions from Savannah Guthrie. Taking a high-profile celebrity like Savannah Guthrie directly is a logistical nightmare, because Savannah Guthrie is surrounded by network security. Therefore, the syndicate pivoted their strategy away from Savannah Guthrie and analyzed the life of Savannah Guthrie to identify her soft target, her vulnerable mother, Nancy Guthrie. By executing a proxy kidnapping against Nancy Guthrie, the perpetrators achieved maximum leverage over Savannah Guthrie with minimal initial risk. They fully understood that Savannah Guthrie, possessing $45 million in resources, would willingly move heaven and earth to save the life of Nancy Guthrie. Jennifer Coffindaffer notes that this is a textbook corporate-style extortion plot designed to drain the finances of Savannah Guthrie by using Nancy Guthrie as bait. This calculated cruelty has inflicted an unimaginable psychological burden on Savannah Guthrie. The kidnappers are weaponizing the success of Savannah Guthrie against her, making Savannah Guthrie feel as though her celebrity status directly placed the crosshairs on the back of Nancy Guthrie. Jennifer Coffindaffer notes that in proxy kidnappings involving figures like Savannah Guthrie, the victim, Nancy Guthrie, is viewed strictly as high-value collateral. Because Nancy Guthrie is the syndicate's literal ATM card to access the wealth of Savannah Guthrie, Jennifer Coffindaffer holds on to the vital hope that Nancy Guthrie is being kept alive. A deceased Nancy Guthrie holds no financial leverage against Savannah Guthrie. Until the millions are transferred from the accounts of Savannah Guthrie, Nancy Guthrie remains the most valuable asset this criminal network possesses. If any skeptics still believe that the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie was a random tragedy, the arrival of the digital ransom demands sent to Savannah Guthrie shattered that illusion completely. Several weeks into the investigation of the kidnapping of Nancy Guthrie, encrypted messages were sent directly to Savannah Guthrie. The kidnappers of Nancy Guthrie utilized the dark web to contact Savannah Guthrie, routing their communications through decentralized servers to mask their origin. Furthermore, they did not demand cash from Savannah Guthrie. They demanded that Savannah Guthrie pay millions in cryptocurrency for the safe return of Nancy Guthrie, ensuring the transaction would be permanently untraceable by the FBI or Jennifer Coffindaffer. Initially, local authorities questioned the authenticity of the messages sent to Savannah Guthrie. In high-profile cases involving figures like Savannah Guthrie, it is common for internet trolls to send fraudulent ransom demands regarding missing persons like Nancy Guthrie. However, former FBI Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer reviewed the communications sent to Savannah Guthrie and immediately verified them as authentic. The kidnappers of Nancy Guthrie provided Jennifer Coffindaffer and Savannah Guthrie with proof-of-life details, chilling, highly specific information about Nancy Guthrie that had never been leaked to the press. The encrypted notes sent to Savannah Guthrie accurately described the specific, faded floral pattern of the nightgown Nancy Guthrie was wearing when she was taken. Even more terrifying for Savannah Guthrie, they detailed the items resting on the nightstand of Nancy Guthrie, specifically mentioning her late husband's silver watch. Jennifer Coffindaffer explained to Savannah Guthrie that these details proved undeniably that the authors of the ransom notes had physically stood inside the bedroom of Nancy Guthrie. It demonstrated to Jennifer Coffindaffer an intimate, violating level of surveillance over Nancy Guthrie. The use of cryptocurrency combined with this irrefutable proof of life regarding Nancy Guthrie has placed Jennifer Coffindaffer and the FBI in a precarious position, as the captors hold the ultimate leverage over Savannah Guthrie while holding Nancy Guthrie in the shadows. The logistical puzzle that has baffled the public is how a criminal enterprise could successfully transport Nancy Guthrie across international lines. How did Nancy Guthrie vanish from the United States without triggering a single alarm, leaving Savannah Guthrie entirely in the dark? The terrifying reality, as outlined by Jennifer Coffindaffer, is that the perpetrators who abducted Nancy Guthrie exploited a massive, systemic blind spot in the United States border infrastructure. The geographic reality is that the home of Nancy Guthrie in Tucson, Arizona, sits a mere hour away from the Mexican border, giving the kidnappers a terrifying advantage before Savannah Guthrie or Jennifer Coffindaffer even knew Nancy Guthrie was gone. While the U.S. government scrutinizes vehicles entering from Mexico, the southbound lanes heading into Mexico are staggeringly porous, a fact that Jennifer Coffindaffer notes the kidnappers of Nancy Guthrie used to their advantage. To get Nancy Guthrie away from Savannah Guthrie in federal jurisdiction, they just had to beat the clock. Jennifer Coffindaffer hypothesizes that Nancy Guthrie was heavily sedated, tightly bound, and hidden deep within the cargo hold of a commercial refrigeration truck. The thick, insulated walls of the trailer would perfectly mask the presence of Nancy Guthrie, drowning out any potential sounds and hiding Nancy Guthrie from Border Patrol scanners as she was stolen away from Savannah Guthrie. As the truck carrying Nancy Guthrie approached the southbound border checkpoint, long before police notified Savannah Guthrie that Nancy Guthrie was missing, the guards likely performed a cursory glance. Within minutes, the vehicle carrying Nancy Guthrie slipped out of the jurisdiction of the United States, taking the mother of Savannah Guthrie into the lawless cartel territories of northern Mexico. Jennifer Coffindaffer has highlighted the smuggling of Nancy Guthrie as a catastrophic failure of Homeland Security. By exploiting the lax outbound checkpoint protocols, the kidnappers of Nancy Guthrie executed a ghost crossing. They secured Nancy Guthrie in a foreign safe house, leaving Savannah Guthrie devastated and Jennifer Coffindaffer furious at the systemic failures that allowed Nancy Guthrie to be taken so easily. Perhaps the most infuriating chapter in the tragedy of Nancy Guthrie is the abysmal failure of the local law enforcement agencies sworn to protect Nancy Guthrie and assist Savannah Guthrie. In the critical hours of the investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, a massive mobilization of ground resources was the only way to save Nancy Guthrie. Yet, in a move that shocked Jennifer Coffindaffer and devastated Savannah Guthrie, the Pima County Sheriff's Department threw in the towel on Nancy Guthrie. A staggering 48 hours into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, local authorities abruptly suspended their active ground search for Nancy Guthrie, effectively abandoning Nancy Guthrie and leaving Savannah Guthrie to fend for herself. Former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer was absolutely appalled by this dereliction of duty regarding Nancy Guthrie. In a scathing public rebuke, Jennifer Coffindaffer pointed out that a 48-hour window is completely unacceptable for a victim like Nancy Guthrie. The apathy displayed by the officials felt like a second betrayal to Savannah Guthrie, as they abandoned Nancy Guthrie because the case of Nancy Guthrie was deemed too difficult. But where the badge failed Nancy Guthrie and Savannah Guthrie, the heart of the community ignited. Refusing to let the case of Nancy Guthrie freeze over, civilian organizations stepped up for Savannah Guthrie and Nancy Guthrie. Groups like the United Cajun Navy mobilized to find Nancy Guthrie. These everyday heroes scoured the dangerous terrains of the Mexican desert, looking for Nancy Guthrie, determined to bring peace to Savannah Guthrie. While the police abandoned Nancy Guthrie, these volunteers faced the threat of cartel violence to keep the search for Nancy Guthrie alive. Jennifer Coffindaffer has become a vocal champion for these civilian warriors, searching for Nancy Guthrie, supporting Savannah Guthrie against the shameful retreat of the authorities. For 140 days, Jennifer Coffindaffer, the Volunteer Navy, and Savannah Guthrie have kept the name Nancy Guthrie echoing through the canyons, proving that the love of Savannah Guthrie and the dedication of Jennifer Coffindaffer will never stop hunting until Nancy Guthrie is found.